Cincinnati Bengals lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-20 in a game where if it could go wrong, it went wrong. And they still almost squeaked it out. And mentally, I was thinking, tie game. At one point, I'm like, tied the Steelers. I guess after everything that went wrong. And then somehow they punt it with 15 seconds still on the play clock. And I get the excuse and the reasons and all that. But we'll dive into all those things. This is my live reaction or my quick reaction after the game of where the emotions are running high. We'll get to the tape. We'll look at a few plays, review a few things that could have easily went the other way. Maybe some things that we'd like to see. Maybe some changes. Maybe some questions we can answer after the game. We'll look at that, over the next 24 hours or so. I'll come back in here after I've watched the film and digested the game one more time, put myself through that one more time. But just off the rip, man, it took too long for that offense to get going. Burrow did not look good. He didn't look like he was seeing things correctly. The O-line was a mixed bag. I thought there was some better run blocking at times. And I thought there were times where they're just doing too much. The first video we did this preseason, where first thing I said on the first video when we were looking at Jackson Carman, the jump sets at left guard. And I'm like, we're going to focus on this because they keep asking Carman to do it. Well, they're asking Volson to do it too. And because of it, he got beat early in the game. You're jumping on this guy, you're getting on Cam Hayward, great, but then he beats you and there's no one there to pick up the slack, right? That's just not how it works. It's supposed to be for quick passes only. And what the Steelers were doing, what it looked like on the TV copy, is they weren't going to let you beat them over the top. They're making Burrow go through multiple reads. They're making Burrow say, all right, I got to check down, middle of the field or check down. And a lot of times that's why we saw him run too. And then, because the jump sets at left guard, you got Jonah Williams now, gets beat on a spin move inside for a sack. It happens, Highsmith's a decent rusher. So now Jonah's like, I'm not getting any help because the left guard has no depth, right? If you're here, and this is a visual aid here, right? I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe we can overlay it with a video right now. But if you've got no help inside because the guard is so much further ahead of you in the pocket because he's jump setting, you got a two-way go for these pass rushers. Jonah is on an island, so he overcompensates. Now he's a little bit more inside and setting a little bit earlier, and he gets beat around the arc. And I'm like, something's got to change. That can't be the thing. Anyways, I hope to show exactly what I'm talking about in the next few segments here. Special teams, I mean, geez, what a strength of the roster last year, something they were able to carry. It's a good thing Cal Adamitis was able to get back on the practice squad. I don't know how long Clark Harris is hurt as of now. Again, it's Sunday afternoon. If he's hurt for a long time, at least they have someone on the practice squad they can bring up. But geez, how do you, that one drive in overtime, right? You get down there, you're on the 12 or whatever it is. The Bengals, okay, we'll hand it off inside, get a yard, run a little play action, dump it to Drew Sample, take 2 yards, and then we'll kick the field goal to win in overtime with the backup long snapper that just failed to get a quality snap down on the extra point where you should have won it. You were going for the field goal? In my mind, I'm talking to the people around me as this is happening. I'm like, I'm not getting. They got to go for a touchdown here. They can't go for this. Like that first play and then the second play, they are calling those plays just to set up this field goal. And now I know you kick it on third down because if it's a bad snap or something crazy happens, Huber can fall on it. He can spike the ball, kneel, however he's coached to do it. And you can kick again on fourth if that's exactly what you want. But just give Burrow a chance on first and second down. What does gaining the extra 2.5 yards do for you on an extra point or a field goal to win the game? It does nothing. So I was disappointed in those play calls there. Overall, I've had a lot of people on Twitter saying the play calling was terrible. But you got to understand, I don't even have to rewatch it yet. I'm going to mark it down when I do rewatch. Burrow, I felt like 50% of the time was checking into other plays at the line based on what the Steelers were showing. So is it play calling or is it their built-in checks that weren't able to execute? You have to wonder how many plays or play actions or screens or whatever it was that Burrow checked out of. How many runs did Burrow check out of? Because they got to run the ball to soften up these defenses to get them to come down, to get a safety to come down so you can actually attack vertically down the field, which we didn't get to see because you can't do it if they're going to play a shell the whole time. I ended up raining a little bit more there than I expected. 23-20. The next two segments, we'll dive into the tape. We'll see what happened. See if we can pick out a few more plays. Stick with us as we do that and get, once the emotions down a little bit, get a little more analytical with the Bengals opening loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we've watched the game again now. At least I have. I know some of you probably don't want to go down that path and that road of watching a very painful game. Yeah, I don't remember what I said yesterday, so if I repeat myself just a little bit, that's probably why. But I'm going to move on to what I saw on rewatch. Obviously, whenever I go back and rewatch a game, there's less emotion in it. You can focus on one player. I can rewind it 6 or 5 times. 6 or 5, because that's how many it takes. So I looked at Cordell Volson a lot. I wanted to look at Ted Karras a lot, Jonah Williams, the entire offensive line. The defense was just outstanding completely. If it was a win, we talk about the defense a lot, I think, and probably Jamar Chase doing his thing at the end and really taking over in a lot of those situations when there were no other receivers on the field. Remember, Boyd had to come off a couple times. Higgins missed 75% of the game, and Jamar Chase still did his thing. But the defense, I could have, like what I was trying to say is I could have went 20, 25 minutes on just playing sound, almost nearly perfect defense as much as you can until they give up that chunk play down the sideline to Deontay Johnson before the field goal to win the game. That was a crazy catch. On the TV copy, it didn't show much, but when they showed the reverse angle in slow motion, that ball was exactly the same as Jamar Chase's catch where he didn't get his toe down, where he actually had to reach behind him, grab it, and get both feet down. So, took an incredible play for the Steelers to actually get anything down the field, and I think that was about 35 air yards for Trubisky, his furthest throw of the day. Speaking of which, just because I have it written down right next to me here, 34 air yards for Joe Burrow was his furthest throw of the day, which is pretty low for Trubisky to have a very similar type of output in a much more controlled offensive environment for the Steelers. I think that highlights kind of the day that Joe Burrow had. Really the reason why the Bengals ended up losing this game, I think, was because Burrow had probably the worst game I've ever seen him play. I watched every of that first year of LSU, every game there. I watched that second year, that magical season, 10 times every game because I was just so excited. Draft season around that time, right? And then obviously we had a couple last year. I remember the Vikings game week 1 last year. I was like, pocket-wise, he's still coming back from that knee. Then we had that Bears game where he threw 3 interceptions in a row, I think, or on 3 straight drives. It might have been 3 straight attempts. Doesn't matter. Felt similar about that game. Like, he's still rusty. He's still working his way back. And maybe it's an early season thing, but I remember thinking those weren't great games. And this is definitely his worst game. For whatever reason. Maybe it's the preseason snaps. Everyone around him still gelling, right? The lack of preseason snaps. Everyone around him still gelling. Maybe it's the appendectomy where his strength isn't all the way back, or his timing isn't all the way back, or he just doesn't have the practice reps, or doesn't have the stamina. But he started the game off and that ball was floating. The thing, though, about having that arm, and that's the criticism, right? Whenever you see somebody, and we talked about this, I think, on the last episode when I took questions, we were going over the Ringers quarterback grades. And the knock is he doesn't have a great arm. And a lot of people are like, so what? This is the game where you probably want to have a great arm, right? Or you at least want something. If you have let's use like Madden numbers. If you've got a 95 arm strength and you've got something where you lose 15 pounds because of health and you're trying to get it back and you're trying to get your power back and you're at an 88, you still got a pretty good arm. If you've got an 80 arm and you lose that and you're at a 68 now, well, that's probably a problem. And it's probably going to affect you on a lot of throws. And the big thing here is what the Steelers did. I think when I watched the tape and rewound and wanted to live, I thought this was happening. But being able to get data on it, the Steelers played cover 2 28.7% of the time, which is second highest rate in the league for week 1 games. We knew coming in, and people were asking Zac Taylor and Joe Burrow, what are you expecting from defenses? And they all said they expect more cover 2, right? Because you can't let Jamar Chase, T. Higgins just streak down the field and let Burrow do what he does best, which are vertical go balls. To be honest, that's what he does. He's probably the best in the league at throwing these. If defenses are going to just sit there in a cover 2 shell and say, you're either going to run the ball and force us out of this, that means your offensive line needs to be pretty consistent. The run game needs to be consistent. Mixon has to have a great day. I thought he was okay. I thought the run game was definitely inconsistent. The ability to stick with it was inconsistent, and people may bring up Zac Taylor for that. Burrow was checking out a lot of these plays based on what they were looking at, especially because most of their runs are still coming from under center. So half their offense is under center, and it's either a run or a play action. The other half is shotgun and empty. And if you watch how the Steelers attacked both, completely different. Shotgun, they go into a cover 2 shell. Say we're going to have our front 4 beat your revamped offensive line, and they did in a lot of ways. Bengals go under center, and this instantly they bring a safety down. 8 play action passes out of under center plays, not enough. That's got to be like a staple. It's got to be more of a, when you're under center, it's got to be 50-50 run pass, I think. And if that's how you're going to do it, unless we got to just go to more shotgun runs, and that's got to be how the offense works. They got to figure out that balance. I think they will. Steelers, so 29%, almost 28.7% cover 2. Last year, they were 13.7% cover 2. One of the lower rate teams. They are a 1 or 3 cover 1-3 team. So I've got one play I wanted to highlight. It's the first interception. Burrow threw 3 interceptions versus cover 2. The one to J.J. Watt right at the line. Great play by Watt. Just realizes, oh, they got 2 blockers on me. I'm not going to defeat both of them if it's a quick pass. If he short steps, I'm going to just jump up and intercept it. And he didn't. But that was cover 2. Not that it affected the play too much in terms of coverage, but it definitely was slowing Burrow's process down. You'll see here, he's a little late, and the ball's a little slow.
All right, this is that pick 6 to open the game for the Bengals. Burrow's first throw of 2022 really sets the tone for the game, sets the tone for what the Steelers were doing against the Bengals. They had a great plan all day with the cover 2, with just keeping both safeties back, disguising their looks a little bit, but really playing more cover 2 than they usually do at all. And what do I mean by cover 2 is you see this safety split in the middle of the field back there. They're going to cover both deep halves. The middle linebacker in a Tampa 2 look is going to take the deep middle guy that's going deepest. And then you got everyone else underneath zones. If you want to attack it, you can go deep down the middle, or you can hit these corner routes right on the outside. That's what the Bengals have drawn up. That's what they plan on doing. Right before the snap, though, Minkah comes over top of the slot corner. I wonder if Burrow thinks that slot corner is going to blitz. It's normally a pretty good tell. And like I said, if you have a guy going over the middle here that can outrace Miles Jack, the middle linebacker, then that's where you'll throw the ball when the safety's split. The Bengals don't have it, right? They got a corner route. If it was a post corner, then yeah, take it. If not, you check it down to Joe Mixon. So where would Burrow have to throw this ball? He would have to throw it about a click earlier and all the way towards the sideline. If not, check it down to Joe Mixon with that linebacker evacuating like that. You got a good shot. Instead, we see Burrow come off slow. The ball floats, and he's late. It's easy pickings for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Maybe Burrow didn't see him. Maybe he couldn't step in the throw because T.J. Watt is right into his face. But either way, that just can't happen.
On the evaluation side of things, I thought the offensive line actually wasn't as bad as I initially thought. In the first half, they were actually better than the second half. It felt different, right? And my initial reaction during the game was, oh, the offensive line's figuring it out, and they're getting better as the game goes on, and they're giving Burrow a little bit more time. The offense is able to push the ball a little bit more down the field. It actually was the opposite. I think Burrow started to figure out what the defense was doing, right? And they started to get counters to the cover 2 and could read the Steelers defense a little bit more. And then guys started getting banged up as well. T.J. Watt went out, which was obviously a huge help for the Bengals in their pass protection. But I thought Volson in the first half had one bad play, and that was that sack to Hayward. In the second half, I ended up giving him about like 10 marks where I thought, I'm going to have to see the end zone view to be sure, but 10 plays where I thought he could have done better. And they played 100 snaps on offense. Conditioning, again, these guys didn't play in the preseason. You have to wonder. I thought Jonah Williams settled down. He let up 2 sacks in the first half, and then he was pretty much solid. There was a couple other pressures. I think PFF gave him and Volson 7 pressures each, 18 total. So they accounted for 14 of the 18. I would say 5 of those, 6 of those were maybe 5 in the first half total between those two, and then the other 9 were in the second half. And maybe they're throwing a little bit more in the second half, couldn't stay with the run. Maybe that was part of it. I thought Karras and Kappa were steady veterans, probably exactly what they thought they'd get with those guys throughout the whole game. They had some minor wins, some minor losses, but really you'll take that steady play every single week, and I expect them to get even better. Collins on the right side was interesting. High variance blocker, which means he had a lot of big impact blocks. Got his guy down a lot. He pancaked Watt maybe 2 or 3 times on run plays. A couple good really pass protection snaps too. He also got beat a lot. Just looked like he was falling, on the ground. Ended up on the ground way too often. Balance was an issue. Conditioning may have been an issue. Remember, he missed most of last year as well. going against TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year, right? It's kind of going to happen a little bit. But high variance, I think that will get ironed out. That can be rust. That can be... he was always kind of a player like that. I remember back at LSU also, we always thought if he can, smooth out the rough edges, he'll be a really, really good player. So I don't know if he has, in his time with the Cowboys. I have watched him there, but don't know if he ever became a fully consistent player. Be interesting to watch. The thing about Volson, I think he's the guy they think he will get better. It'll be interesting to see if he can get better, how much better he can get, and if Jonah can settle down after a rough quarter and a half against the Steelers and Highsmith, who seems to just give him troubles. Highsmith's just got enough power and enough juice in those hands to really get around Jonah Williams. First spin move, then around the arc. But I think one of the major subjects, and maybe the last one we'll touch on here, is some of the decision-making, coaching. I think first and foremost is the lack of a challenge on that Jamar Chase touchdown at the goal line. That wasn't a touchdown that they said was at the half-yard line, even though his foot is on the goal and the ball's in his hand. That's just using your brain. I don't need visual evidence. Just using your brain. He scored. That ball's got to touch one blade of white. That's it. Looks like a touchdown to me. How you don't challenge that? It's funny. It looks like Taylor on the tape is running up. I couldn't get a clip of it, but it looks like he's running up to possibly challenge it, like he needs something from the upstairs to give him the go-ahead. You see Burrow cup and listen to whatever's going on and then hurry to the line as if maybe they thought Chase didn't catch the ball. All right, maybe there was some concern that maybe Chase didn't get it. We need to go up and get a quick snap and maybe we can punch it in, catch them off guard, and don't leave time for the review. The fact was Chase did catch it, and it probably would have been overturned and called a touchdown, and maybe would have changed the game from there, would have put the onus on the Steelers. You still would have had to make the extra point, as we saw when they come back down and end up scoring and then getting the extra point blocked after Hayden Hurst could not block his side. I don't know what happened there. If anything, you think he would block inside out with the snap being just a quarter of a second slower than normal. So you get that. My bigger issue, though, a lot of people are going to talk about those things. My bigger issue with Taylor is very reminiscent of that 49ers game from last year in overtime. Remember, the Bengals get the ball. They drive it all the way down the field. They run it on first down from the 10. I'm going off memory here. It feels like they're within the 15. They run it on first down. Get nothing. Get stuffed. Burrow gets sacked on second down. The incomplete pass, I think, on third down. Or was it running? It doesn't matter. The feeling of that game was they were settling for the field goal the entire time. You didn't give Burrow a chance to push it into the end zone at all at that time. The Bengals have that scenario again versus the Steelers. They drive down the field. Hayden Hurst catches a nice toe tap. And the Bengals and Zac Taylor just settle for the field goal. Or at least that's how the plays look. Let me know what you think here.
Everyone's talking about the different Zac Taylor miscues here at the end of the Steelers-Bengals wild finish, right? Here's the high snap, and they're kicking on third down. High snap, we kick on third because Huber can just fall on it there and they can get a retry on it. But what about the two plays before? So remember, this is right after the Hayden Hurst toe tap versus the cover two, by the way. Where the Bengals come out here, you're on the 14 and 13 and a half, and you've got a lot of the momentum. You can end this game with a touchdown. At least I'd be thinking touchdown here. And instead you get an inside handoff with an extra guy in the box, extra defender. And the Bengals are like, okay, well, that's cool. We're going to put Burrow under center now. And like I said, it's either a run or a play action out of under center, right? Here we got a check from Burrow, so whatever was there, maybe they check to this, maybe not. It's leave the end unblocked, make them make a hurry throw, make a Fitzpatrick makes a tackle. Drew Sample was supposed to save us.
So I thought Zac Taylor learned from that. Remember after that 49ers game, he's like, learning experience, just want to give the ball to Burrow, let him make plays. I think even in a game like this where he struggled, I want Burrow to throw the ball 3 times. Maybe twice. If you want to kick it on third, fine. I want Burrow to throw it twice in plays where he can read the defense and make a decision. Not a run up the middle and then a play action where he doesn't get a chance to even read anything and he just has to get it off quick. I mean, you're saying I want my backup long snapper that just failed to snap and make a good hold and get a good kickoff. You're that confident in those guys and that situation than Burrow reading the field twice? I mean, yeah, make it as short as possible so it's easier, maybe. I don't know, man. I just can't get that mentality that I don't want Burrow to make the play, make the read, and make the decision after he just Burrow made 4 game-winning throws. None of them were game-winning because they didn't count the one to Chase that we just talked about on the sideline where it looks like he crosses the goal. You got the Mike Thomas back of the end zone that hits his hands and as he's hiding and gets hit by Minkah Fitzpatrick, right? Then you have the one to Chase. Chase one-hands it, gets 1 foot down, toe out of bounds. That's 3 throws, game-winning throws. And then the fourth one that was a game-winning throw, the out route to the right at the pylon to Jamar Chase. You don't think he could have done it one more time and just got us out of that game without needing to even kick again, without ever needing to send Mitchell Wilcox out there one more time? So when I watched that, I just, even at the moment, I remember thinking, like, really? All right, maybe they expect to be better this time. Because the snap wasn't inaccurate the first time. It was slower, which has an effect, and Hayden Hurst couldn't block his side. So maybe they thought, we fix that communication issue. We fix the blocking issue. Get out there, give us a good snap again. If it's not Huber, drop on it. We'll kick it again on 4th down. We're going to get one of these right. And none of that happened, right? Snaps high. Huber doesn't drop it. Laces are facing the kicker, and you just gave the Steelers the game because you didn't want Joe Burrow to drop back and throw because you thought a 29-yard field goal would be better than a 35 if he got sacked. Who cares at that point? Yeah, that drove me nuts. So we're going to turn the page, right? That's the game. Burrow needs to play better. The offensive line needs to play better. Needs to start off better for sure. The running game and the cohesion of the offense is going to be something I think we talk about all year. Are they under center? Or is everything's play action run under center? Is everything from shotgun spreading them out and going empty? Because if it is, it's disjointed. And I think that gives too many tells to the defense, or at least good bets for them to make their play. And then on defense, as good as they played, fantastic. I'd like to see more rotation on the defensive line. I'd like to see Dax Hill and Joseph Asai get in more than 6 plays and 11 plays, respectively. That Bills game Thursday night, I don't know if you guys watched that, versus the Rams. Von Miller wasn't in for 2 straight series. I thought he was injured. It wasn't injured. They just had a deep rotation at defensive line and kept churning guys. So when they needed them to have big plays on 3rd downs and obvious passing situations, the good pass rushers are back in the game. They're fully fresh, and they're going after it. The Bengals, you obviously could see what the Steelers are doing. Everything was misdirection. You're not giving them a chance to rush the passer. Why are you chewing up Trey Hendrickson in those plays? That's when Joseph Asai should get in there. That's when these other guys, Zach Carter, should get in there. And then you unleash those guys. Unleash the Trey Hendricksons on passing downs. But, again, the defense played so good. Hard to be critical. They did a great job on that side. It's just things I want to look for in the future. We want to get those other guys mixed in and see if they can play and help this team, because you're going to need them at some point. I don't want to leave it up to relative unknowns when we're in week 10, week 12, whatever the case may be. So, a few things to watch. We got the Cowboys this week. Dak Prescott just went down. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks per reports. Broken thumb or surgery on his thumb, something along those lines. Then the Bengals get Joe Flacco back up again versus the Jets. You couldn't ask for 3 quarterbacks to start your season to go against, but better situation than this for the defense. So not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's where it's at. That's the hope. That's the glimmer of, we don't expect Burrow to be this bad every week. No. I expect now he's going to play lights out, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be pissed off. So that's where we're at. And that's Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, at Joe Goodberry, just how it sounds. I'm sure Nick, my guy here, has got it somewhere on the bottom, I assume. And other than that, make sure you follow Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hit the subscribe and the like and the notification bell, all those things, because we get a lot of content. It's not just me every week. If you're just watching for me, thanks. But there's a lot of other people on here doing great work and probably keep your interest. And best way to get over these games, I think, is just to dive in and analyze it. So that's what I did. Now I feel much better. I'm much more hopeful in a lot of positions. But that's enough for me for today. We'll see you next time. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel, if I can say that.